While the Chicago Bears are still trying to figure out their running back room, they have signed 6 foot, 225-pound running back Deion Hankins. Does he have a chance to make the practice squad or the roster for the Chicago Bears? We're going to talk about it all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. The Chicago Bears have signed running back Deion Hankins. This is a guy out of Texas State, 6 foot, 225 pounds. And that sounds a lot like Roshan Johnson, right? And that's really when you watch this guy and this tape, he reminds you a lot of Roshan Johnson. Now, Roshan has never really been able to crack the mold with the Chicago Bears, right? While he came in with a lot of promise and a lot of excitement around him between injuries and other things, he's never really quite lived up to that. But let's be clear here, right? He's not slow, especially not for his size. He's somebody that, was there that the Bears, could have looked at doing some things that they bring in an experienced running back here. And I think that's the key thing to it, right? Hankins was a contributor for the University of Texas, right? To 2019 to 2023 before transferring to Texas State in his final year and got kind of lost in the mix there, right? He gained 2,604 yards on 548 carries and 23 touchdowns at UTEP. However, he only played 13 games and had 272 yards and 62 carries at Texas State. And when you look at the size and strength and combination of that, like I said, he really does remind you a lot of what Roshan Johnson was potentially going to bring to this team. He did run a 4.5 when it came down to it. So he's not necessarily the quickest player, right? But when you look at his production that he had at UTEP, that's where things start looking more promising for him, right? 812 yards in 2023 on 157 carries. That's 5.2 yards per carry, right? And so he's joining in a backfield that there's not a lot of experience on that team after DeAndre Swift. You have Roshan, you have Ian Cunningham, you have Travis Homer there, who, say what you will there. Kyle Monangai is coming in there, Ian Willer, right? But other than that, you don't have a lot of that, right? So when you look, he's really kind of competing in to come to that. And I think he's more so competing for a chance to make, the back end of that running back room and maybe make it look like something like, maybe he doesn't fit well, or Travis Homer doesn't end up making out because these younger guys kind of outshine him when it comes down to it, right? But when you look at it as well, like Travis Homer is the one that he can probably pass up on that depth chart. But with Monangai being there, you just never know when it comes down to it. Monangai is also a tremendous pass blocker, which is really going to be something that he's going to, if he does, crack the rotation next year, he's going to be looked at and trusted to do that. But one thing that Hankins does do extremely well is protect the football, right? He protects the football really well in that case, and we'll see what the Chicago Bears can bring from him. But this is a guy that has really, really solid upside, right? And I know he hasn't played a whole lot, but he does bring some experience there as a guy that played 6 years in college football. 6. Now that also raises some concerns, right? People who stay in college football that long, do they ever really turn out and pan out, right? He's not really a threat in the receiving game at all either. When you look at his whole entire career in college football, he's only caught like 12 passes when it comes down to that, like 15, I think is what it comes down to. So he hasn't really shown an ability to be that either, right? And this is a guy that really comes in with some promise. And I've seen some of you guys in the comment section as well that are really high on him. And looking at his tape, I can see it, right? I want to be clear there. Looking at some of his tape, I can see where people can get excited about. But I think when it comes down to it, he's not the fastest guy. He's not the strongest guy. He's not the best athlete. He is smart, though, right? He's a very intelligent runner. And when you look at that, that's the thing that stands out the most to you, really, is how intelligent of a runner he is, because he is that, right? Overall, outside of that, right, he gets up extra yardage. He's able to run between the tackles, which you do need, right? He has really solid pad level when he's blocking as well. He's taking off multiple defenders to keep the QB in the pocket as well. So there's some of that where you can look at it, but it's not necessarily as promising to where you're looking at it and saying that may be like Monanga is much better and more advanced than that. Roshan Johnson's much better and more advanced than that. So even if that is one of the things that is one of his promising parts of his game, there's still some concern there. Now, if you're going to put him in a spread offense in two tight end formations, which the Bears could use a lot of, the way that he can be a downhill runner at times, right? And that he's tough to take down. This is a strong kid with a low center of gravity that's really strong lower body. So he's tough to take down for defenders, especially if he gets out into the open field. But I still say there's still some questions there, right? He's going to be a guy that really comes down to your scheme, really comes down to how much of his power translates to the NFL and how much that between the tackle ability there is something that ends up being a kind of a more reliable asset for him. And that's going to be a big part of all this for a guy like Hankins, right? Again, I see what people will get excited about for him. I've seen somebody left a comment that Hankins and Monanga is going to take over the running back room. I don't see that. And I think because we have a player that fits a similar mold, albeit has been very injury prone in Roshan Johnson, it's going to have to take some it's going to have to really take him really stepping up and surprising some people. Now, he didn't play a lot last year. I think that's the thing that the Bears maybe looked at that and said, hey, the last time this guy was really heavily into the game plan, he was pretty solid production. So we could bring him in. But overall, this feels like a camp body. That's what this feels like. It feels like a camp body. It feels like somebody that you bring into camp and you say, hey, if they bring something, if they do this, if they do that, then that really can change some things for you, but it's not guaranteed. And so while I like what I see in Hankins, I got to be real and forward when it comes to this. I just don't know if I see what some other Bears fans see in Deion Hankins. Again, I would love to be wrong on that. I'm somebody that I root for everybody that's on my team. If he comes in here and he shines, like not a lot of people had a lot of hope for Ian Willard, right? And he came in here and really surprised and played well. I think overall, that's what you're looking at. Like the Bears are really going to use a versatile set of running backs in training camp and in preseason. You're going to get to see a lot of these guys in the second half of games during the preseason to really for them to take a look at who's going to stay, who's going to go, who's going to be on the practice squad, things like that. But overall, I like him. Again, I like what I see on tape. But sometimes you need more than just what you see on tape for a guy that really have a chance to be anything for your team. And that's where it stands right now. 6 years worth of college experience, right? And those years at UTEP, there's some promise there. I want to be clear there, right? But overall, like I'll say this. There have been players before that the Chicago Bears have brought in that have shot. And at a running back position where, unless the Bears do sign Nick Chubb, which we're still looking out for to see if that's going to happen, there's going to be some opportunity for somebody to maybe come in here and shine and surprise a little bit. Is that going to be Hankins? We'll see. But let me know what you guys think and feel down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Podcast, at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.